what has happened in the Mumbai landscape is that every developer has set up its own core competence. So, a person who's doing luxury typically operates in a certain segment. A person who does MADA specializes in MADA. So, the hyper specialization has become a norm in Bombay. So, I think typically Bombay is moving towards the larger players, ruling the roost. So as to say, because the level of compliances have increased manyfold. Furthermore, real estate has become extremely capital intensive. With a high transaction cost, there are no investor sales. Like, you have 5% GST, you have 6% registration. So only actual users, they typically tend to buy under construction. So a lot more money has to be put in by developers themselves. So this is where the larger developers come and hold sway. That said, they typically like greenfield projects. They try to come in only when the risk is mitigated to a certain extent, the entire site is vacant. So more and more what is happening is developers like us are tying up with larger developers for larger projects. I'll give you an example. For example, I'm 25. I don't have a girlfriend and I'm going out in the arranged market setup to look for a wife. I will not look at what I am or, my financial capability or how I look or, what is my standing, what is my job status. I want a girl to have everything. She should be from the Ambani family. She should have the looks like a superstar or movie star. She should, be humorous. She should be good looking. I would want everything. And as I progress along, I realize, wait, let's take a step back. I can't get this. No, I can't get this. No, I can't get this. And then that alignment of expectations come. And I have many friends who are 40 now, and they've reached a point where they're like, I just want someone I'm compatible with. Like all the other boxes are gone out of the window. So, when you translate that analogy into a redevelopment process, that is when the alignment of expectations happen. When the society or the tenants, they feel that we only want our house. And we only want a good construction house. We only want a house in a specific time period, is when a redevelopment can actually take place.
Welcome to Construction Week podcasts. Today our guest is CREDAI-MCHI's flamboyant face, Mr. Rushi Mehta, who is the driving force also behind Neelyog. Rushi, thank you for joining us. You would be the right person to talk about the opportunities in Mumbai from developers' perspective as well as from the industry perspective. So, to start with, redevelopment has become today's talking point from the real estate industry's perspective, especially in Mumbai. So what do you see are the opportunities in this segment for developers?
At the outset, Nagesh, thank you for having me in this podcast. Like you rightly said, Bombay is a city where, there are hardly any open spaces. So greenfield development is not possible at all. So redevelopment is ideally the norm. We do MADA redevelopment, you do slum rehabilitation, you do society redevelopment, you do tenant redevelopment. But all said and done, redevelopment is the buzzword. In terms of opportunities, there are huge opportunities, but every opportunity comes with its own set of challenges. So how you navigate those challenges, and what has happened in the Mumbai landscape is that every developer has set up its own core competence. So, a person who's doing luxury typically operates in a certain segment. A person who does MADA specializes in MADA. So, the hyper specialization has become a norm in Bombay. Like, for example, I do a lot of slum rehabilitation. So, I understand that business. I know how it works. So I think there are a lot of opportunities when it comes to redevelopment. The entire city of Mumbai is WIP, as they say, work in progress. And it's available for redevelopment. It's just how you pick and choose and how you do it. You have to ensure that you are doing it in a sustainable manner so that you are leaving Mumbai a better place than what it was before you started the redevelopment.
Your organization has been one of the pioneers, I would say, when it comes to redevelopment projects. Because 25 years ago, in fact, you started with the
That's correct.
rehabilitation projects. So how has been that experience over the 25 years? Have things changed? And today, what are the challenges that you see in this type of business?
I mean, slum redevelopment has always been difficult. When I tell people that I do slum and they look at me and, they give that expression that how do you manage? And it's a difficult business. It's a tricky business, but someone's got to do it. And, all I've seen growing up is I'm second generation into this business. My dad was one of the pioneers into slum rehabilitation schemes. One of the first few schemes in Bombay was done by us. And, we are typically conservative as a family oriented business. One of my friends at a very early stage told me that, Rushi, in construction, there's a lot of operational risk. So don't add financial risk to it. So, what we try to do is that we take finance, but only at the relevant stage. Because a lot of people, where they go wrong is that in Bombay, the gestation period of the projects is very long. So if I take a project today, chances are that the project will hit the floor 5 years down the line. So that's a huge gestation period. If I have taken the project on borrowed capital, that's my doomsday. My obituary is written on day one. So you have to ensure that the initial stage, you handle everything with your own money. And me and my company at Neelyog, we ensure that we don't borrow any money for any project till the time the entire site for the sale building is vacant and we have RERA registration.
Oh.
So that is the kind of financial discipline which will hold you in good stead. So, like I said, Bombay, the entire Bombay is up for sale. Like 55% of Bombay is encroached by slums. So there is a lot of opportunities, and even more so when a player like us who's established. So, we are one of the empaneled grade A developers. So every day I get proposals to rehabilitate slums. I cannot say yes to everything. Because I have to understand that there is only so much, and my resources are only so much. If I say yes to everything, I would not be doing justice to any of them. So that kind of being conservative to a little extent helps you in the long run.
Has the entry of large players, corporate players in this segment changed the equation? Competition has increased. Financially, it has become more challenging.
So I think typically Bombay is moving towards the larger players, ruling the roost. So as to say, because the level of compliances have increased manyfold. Furthermore, what has happened is a lot of real estate has become extremely capital intensive. With the high transaction costs, there are no investor sales. Like, you have 5% GST, you have 6% registration. So only actual users, they typically tend to buy under construction. So a lot more money has to be put in by developers themselves. So this is where the larger developers come and hold sway. That said, they typically like greenfield projects. They try to come in only when the risk is mitigated to a certain extent, the entire site is vacant. So more and more what is happening is developers like us are tying up with larger developers for larger projects, where the capital outlay is lot. And we have all, like I said, I keep coming back to, I use the word, hyper specialization. So I know where my core competence is. My core competence is in getting the approvals, in dealing with the slum dwellers, in vacating the site. But I know that their core competence is raising money, in boosting sales. So in a good market, everyone can sell. In a good market, I can sell, Godrej can sell, Kanakya can sell, Russamji can sell, everyone can sell. When the market is bad, the customers tend to gravitate towards the larger developers, because they know that they are well capitalized and they can sustain these shocks and still deliver the project. So it makes more sense for us to tie up with these developers so that we create a synergy. And for larger projects, it definitely makes sense.
The interesting angle. In fact, that is something, joint development projects.
Yeah.
So how does that work? What kind of relationships do you typically engage with large developers?
So typically, when it comes to listed players and large developers, they try and enter at the stage when the plot is vacant and all the approvals are in place, the RERA registration in place. So generally from that point on, whether you do revenue sharing, you do profit sharing, there are different models of going about it. But typically in a redevelopment or a joint redevelopment, how it works is For example, me, I would look at all my rehab obligations. So clearing the slums, making the rehab buildings, getting the approvals in place, all that would be my responsibility. Whereas the incoming partner would bring in the finance, would bring in their expertise in sales. We are aligning the expertise of both players and trying to create a synergy between us.
So, which is the JD project that you currently are working on?
So, as of now, we haven't tied up with anyone, but there are a few large projects which are in the pipeline. We are having talks with multiple players. So, I mean,
Western suburbs, or
in Western, both in Western and Central as well.
Oh.
So, right now, my work is predominantly in the Central suburbs. But so a lot of these consolidation in the industry, that is the key word right now.
Actually, I'm going to ask you about that. But before that, maybe a little bit more about
Okay.
redevelopment. The negotiations part, because customers have become more, tenants are become a little more
Yeah.
demanding.
Yeah.
How do you tackle these scenarios when you have, if not you, there is another builder who is going to anyway, approach this same society?
Yeah. So I'll break it down in two parts. In slum, it becomes that much easy because the parameters are very well settled. So it's not as if I can give 300 square feet and someone else can give 400 square feet. So, there everyone has an equal level playing field. So then in those scenarios, I tend to hold the edge because of the pure delivery history that my company has over the past 30 years. But when it comes to regular redevelopment, the story is completely different. And, I think the expectations of tenants are also irrational to a certain extent, and I don't blame them. You have to understand that they have one flat, and once in a lifetime they're going to move that flat and move into another flat, so they want to monetize it as best as they can. And sometimes they put blinders, and the only thing that they see is who's giving the maximum area, who's giving the maximum corpus fund. So the emphasis, there's no balanced emphasis on various parameters. Like, how is the developer? What is his pedigree? How many projects has he completed? What are the timelines in which he's completed it? What is the quality of construction that the developer is bringing to the table? So all these, sadly, are overlooked purely from a maximization and square feet kind of a driven model. And they don't call Bombay maximum city for no reason. I can't blame tenants. We as developers want to maximize FSI. They as tenants, they want to maximize the area that they get. All I say is that, when it is too good to be true, it is because it is actually too good to be true.
So better to walk out.
Yeah. So, there are a lot of times when there are many fly-by-the-night developers who just give offers for the sake of giving it, knowing fully well that they are not going to be able to fulfill these promises.
How long does that, negotiation typically take, and when does the actual project start? On average, I know it's different for case to case basis.
So I'll give you an analogy.
Okay.
Whenever a project comes to me first up, when a society decides in their ultimate wisdom that they want to redevelop it and they come, and if you are the first developer, I tend to walk away. And I have a theory, because there is a need for alignment of expectations. And I'll give you an example. For example, I'm 25. I don't have a girlfriend, and I'm going out in the arranged market setup to look for a wife. I will not look at what I am, or my financial capability, or how I look, or what is my standing, what is my job status. I want a girl to have everything. She should be from the Ambani family. She should have the looks like a superstar or movie star. She should, be humorous. She should be good looking. I would want everything. And as I progress along, I realize, wait, let's take a step back. I can't get this. No, I can't get this. No, I can't get this. And then that alignment of expectations come. And I have many friends who are 40 now, and they've reached a point where they're like, I just want someone I'm compatible with. Like, all the other boxes are gone out of the window. So, when you translate that analogy into a redevelopment process, that is when the alignment of expectations happen. When the society or the tenants, they feel that we only want our house, and we only want a good construction house. We only want a house in a specific time period, is when a redevelopment can actually take place. Because otherwise their expectations are to the moon and back, and you cannot fulfill them. So I tend to walk away from those situations.
Actually, that was so. Matchmaking typically takes how long? As in 2 years or something? After 2 years, the same party comes back to you.
Yeah. So typically, sometimes it takes 5 years. So, the minute the society feels that they are on a gold mine is that they're not ready. So, yeah. It can be anything. So,
they should also get some reality shocks after that. They will
yeah.
realize.
And it's a process. So, I don't begrudge them the process because you would always want the moon at the outset. And if you don't aim for it, then you feel that you're shortchanging yourself. So, that process needs to play out and it is going to play out. So, yeah.
Okay, something related to redevelopment is, one of the topics being discussed is affordable housing. Probably few years ago was the buzzword. Today, nobody talks about, at least in the industry, affordable housing people don't talk much about. So is that dead, as in the concept dead, or you think that because there is definitely demand for affordable houses, just that builders today are not able to meet that kind of expectations of the home buyers?
So, Nagesh, I'll give you a categorical answer. Affordable housing can never be that. So, again, affordable housing is very relative. What do you call affordable in Bombay may be super luxury in a tier 2 city. But let's say affordable housing is something which is sub 600 square feet. Let's just put it that way. And it can never die. Because what happens is those choices of people who want affordable housing are never related to market. They are more driven by when they have the capital ready to buy the house. So the triggers are different. When they are in a comfortable space in terms of their job or in terms of their business, that they can put out that capital outlay. So, typically that is when they decide that they want to buy the house and then they'll pull the trigger, and irrespective of where the market is. Also, what has happened is in the last 5 years after COVID, suddenly there has been a paradigm shift towards luxury housing. People have seen their mortality right in front of them and they realize that, mujhe aaj ke liye jeena hai. And they want bigger houses and, the bells and whistles, they want the works. So a lot of developers, to cater to this demand, have started constructing luxury houses. So in the past 4 years, so from 2020 to 2026, a lot of inventory has changed from affordable housing to luxury housing to cater to the high luxury demand. But these are ultimately just cycles. The demand for affordable housing is never going to go away because that is the larger segment of people who would want to buy a house.
Okay.
So, yeah.
One of the things, and in fact, it came from Mr. Hiranandani. He spoke about rentals, organized rentals. Do you see that likely to happen? And if it has to happen from the industry perspective, what would be your expectations from the government so as to make it viable for you as a business?
So, as we stand today, rental housing as a structured development model is not a workable model because residential rental yield is at 2%, in some cases 4%. In commercial rental yield is at about 6%, 8%. The cost of capital today is more than that. So economic sense does not justify me to go in for these rental models. That said, if we get incentivized from the government that, for example, I'm building just to sell, I may get, say, 3 FSI. For example, if I am making that entire building only as a rental product, I get 5 FSI. Let's just hypothetically say 5 FSI. I can generate that much extra stock and they may put all kinds of controls that I'm not able to sell for 10 years, blah, 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 whatever. So that to ensure that I'm making a rental product. Then a lot more developers would be incentivized to go into rental development. And I honestly think, Nagesh, this is the need of the hour. Because, the old generation, I would call myself in the old generation, we have always been told that, you need to put your roots in one place, you need to buy a house, you need to get married. So, you are living a very structured life. But moving forward, the Gen Z, the Gen Alpha, the whatever, they don't want to get rooted anywhere. They don't want to get tied down to a capital asset. They don't want to pay EMIs for the rest of their life. So for them, this rental housing makes a lot of sense.
So are we going to see maybe over the next 5 years, will we see the condos or something that coming up, rental condos, the entire projects
So again, what is happening? I'll give you an example. In a place like Juhu, so in Juhu there are numerous colleges. Like there's NMIMS, there is there's NM College, there's Mithibai College, that's Law College. So a lot of these students are coming from say Ahmedabad, they're coming from Indore, they're coming from various parts of the country to study over there. And rental housing is thriving over there. So what people are doing is, but that is PG. Yeah. But that needs to be made structured. So that can happen only with government intervention.
Okay, so has this model been discussed at maybe association level, maybe at informal gatherings of the developers?
So,
and is it likely to maybe crystallize into some formal demand made to the government?
So the government is aware of the huge rental demand, and they are taking steps towards it. So I believe in the housing policy of Maharashtra, which has just come in. There's an entire section dedicated to rental housing. So, there, what they want to give may not meet our expectations, but there is always a step in the right direction. Them acknowledging that a structured need for rental housing is a need of the hour is the first step. So I believe they've given some GST benefits and municipal tax benefits and all of that. So it's a step in the right direction. We are having constant dialogue with the government through CREDAI-MCHI. And we always tell them that this rental housing scheme needs to be made robust. So let's see how far we go when it's...
So how optimistic are you? Maybe next 5 years we will see?
Definitely. In the next 5 years, I'm pretty optimistic that something has to give.
So 2030, maybe we can say the ballpark here when we will actually see a rise of
structured rental. Yeah. Structured. Yeah.
Okay, good. That's something that coming back to the luxury housing there, as you said, there has been a boom in luxury housing last 4 years, 5 years.
Yeah.
There has been. So how optimistic are you? Because there has also been the supply side pile up, which is happening when it comes to luxury housing. How optimistic are you? When do you think that, and again, something linked to that, as association, how is association helping the developers to clear the piles?
So Bombay is the promised land.
Yeah.
Like in India, everyone who feels that they have a luxury house in Bombay, they've arrived. So till the time that notion holds good, we are in a good place. And Nagesh, every year, every day, thousands of millionaires are being born every day. I mean, the India's trajectory is like this. The minute we become like this, there's a cause for concern. For the next 10 years, for the next 20 years, I do not see a blip in luxury housing. Because the aspirational value attached to owning a luxury home is just transcendental. And like I said, the younger generation is now making the decision to buy the house. And they don't care about savings. They don't care. They don't want to leave for the next few generations. They want to maximize and enjoy their life right now. And these are the people who are making these decisions to buy the luxury houses. So, you may see short-term corrections over the next 10 years. But if you see the overall trajectory, it's going to be like this.
Yeah, in fact, something I wanted to ask you about today, you just spoke about the young generation, the young entrepreneurs, as well as they probably, they know what's happening in the world.
Yeah.
They have seen different parts of the globe. So what are the preferences that you come across that young generation has when it comes to luxury housing?
So for them, the address matters the most. So, we are moving towards the New York way. New York, every street has a snob value. The closer you are to the sea has a snob value. So, people want to buy in a property which has a snob value attached to it. So, gone are the days where you want to give lengthy addresses. Like, you want to give one name of the building and,
That's recognized.
Yeah, that I'm living here. So that is the kind of aspirational values that these young people have. And they are fearless. They don't mind making bold choices and dropping a lot of money into these luxury houses.
Something related to luxury, we are also seeing, branded residences.
Yeah.
So are you also working on any of these branded residences through partnerships with hospitality brands or any other large consumer brands?
So Nagesh, as of now, my company is in a cycle where we are catering to the lower mid, the affordable housing sector. Everything is a function of what kind of plot you get. So if you get a plot where you can make luxury and where you can justify luxury, then we'd obviously go into that direction. But as of now, there are no plans on the anvil to, strategically go towards or target the luxury housing.
What prospects do you see branded residences have as an observer, being in the industry?
So, I mean, like I said, branded residences are one thing. I would give more emphasis to gated communities and to cluster redevelopment. So if you see, even the government of Maharashtra is pushing cluster development. First came the regulation 33(9) for cluster development. Then now they've come up with a cluster development for slums as well, where they're going to develop 50 acres of slums together. So more and more emphasis is to have your own cocoon within Mumbai. Like, a lot of us want to live in the bubble. You step out and, you are met with chaos. But when you step into your home, you have everything that you want at your fingertips. So, you have your own gym, you have your own coach, you have your own tennis court, you have your own swimming pool, and you have your own social circuit. So what happens is when you're moving into these gated communities, you are kind of living with the people of the same social, in the same social value chain. I mean, may sound elitist, but everyone wants to do that.
So, something related to cluster developments. In fact, also another thing that we talk about cluster developments is how close is that to the nearest metro station.
Yeah.
So from that perspective, which are the key micro markets that you see are promising micro markets in Mumbai? If you can, and from your perspective also, which are the ones that you are looking?
So again, I have a different take on this.
Yeah.
With the kind of infrastructure which Bombay is seeing, like, with all the metros and, the flyovers and the coastal roads which are happening, I believe every suburb of Bombay will have a par rate. So, for example, every suburb of Bombay will say 25,000 or 30,000. So, any development that you do anywhere in Bombay will typically have that. And then there will be a premium attached to how close you are to that transport node, and B, how large your plot is, and what kind of amenities you can give within your development. So if you can make a premium development, so for example, even in Malad, Goregaon, so the par rate may be 25,000, but you'll have projects which can sell at 60,000, at 70,000, which will completely break the market. And they will act as an aberration, but they'll be in their own silo. But I mean, people are willing to buy it because they don't want to leave Malad. They don't want to leave the kids' school over there. But they want the luxury in Malad. So I think we are moving towards that.
So every, so to say, suburb will have its own
project, like a marquee project, which will command head and shoulders above the next project.
Oh, interesting. So we will have a lot of luxury projects across.
Yeah. But that said, I think Bandra is evolving. So the entire business bay, the amount of stock which can come in, like the Adanis, Oberois of the world, the Godrej of the world, the kind of projects and the amount of inventory which is coming, is going to completely shift how Bandra is going to look. And you add to that Dharavi. I mean, fingers crossed, touch wood, if that happens the next 10 years, I mean, that area, that entire Bandra, Sion, that sector is going to be transformed.
You have been focusing on Ghatkopar, Kandivali, Malad, that's some of these suburbs. What are the new micro markets that you are also exploring?
Like I said, I don't fall in love with any micro market.
Okay.
So it depends on, what proposal comes in, which seems viable, and you work from there.
So these three right now you're focusing.
So what happens, Nagesh, is that because you're in this market, every proposal which comes in the market comes first to you.
Okay.
Because you have that delivery behind you.
Okay.
So a person who wants to develop in Worli may not necessarily come to me, but a person who wants to develop in Ghatkopar will first surely come and ask me whether I want to develop it or no. Only if I say no, will they go to B, C, D. So that is just a function of how things pan out.
Okay. Yeah. Going back to the point that you spoke about the consolidation, can you comment on what is the current scenario in terms of consolidation? Do you see any consolidation happening in the industry, both from M&A perspective as well as the slowdown perspective?
So in terms of M&A perspective, like I said, a lot of developers are realizing that, consolidation and getting together is the way to go forward. Like I said, the real estate is becoming extremely capital intensive. So it's just not worth your while to get stuck with one project. People are realizing that they might as well spread the risk over 5 projects and do it with various people. So the risk is divided between the players, between the projects. So I think that kind of consolidation is already happening. In terms of industry slowdown consolidation, I don't think that's happening at all. Because I don't think we've hit a slowdown as such. Like, the external factors like war and all are bearing on our mind. But until and unless they have a prolonged, like it's a 1-year war or a 2-year conflict in the Middle East, then maybe, you'll see that kind of consolidation will happen, wherein there will be consolidation between players who have access to money and people who don't have access to money. But right now, I don't think. I think only synergy-based consolidation is happening right now.
So I remember during the event that you had, you invited all the brokers for the event. There was some track on the education for the brokers. So what were the things that you are looking at? What type of education are you looking at so that they are equipped with the right information and knowledge?
So in terms of general education, I think the channel partners now have to give a mandatorily an exam before they are registered as channel partners by RERA. So, that basic education is already done by RERA. Okay. And then what happens is at a developer level, every developer has not a training exercise, but an exercise where they acquaint the channel partners with their project.
I guess you had some track or something where workshop was organized that very day. Because some brokers told me that they have to attend a workshop. Today you had organized.
So that, I think there was a workshop being held by MahaRERA.
Oh, okay.
So they took on...
facilitated.
Yeah. But, in a formalized manner, as CREDAI-MCHI, we generally don't have that kind of workshops with the channel partner associations. Also, one important fact that I told them at that point in time, and also I'll repeat it, is that everything is too fragmented. So, even when we held that event, we realized that there are about 50 channel partner associations.
Yes.
So, we don't know whom to speak to. We don't know, speak to him, speak to them, speak to them. So, if they come together and they come up with a association, which is one association for Bombay or one association for Maharashtra, like how we have CREDAI-MCHI, it'll just make structured dialogue so much easier.
So, I remember one of the conversations that day was, given the uncertainties today, this kind of activity may provide a fillip to the sales activity, because probably there are certain communication gaps. Those will be bridged. So has it, started happening that because of this kind of interactions, or will you be doing these kind of activities more consistently?
So channel partners have always been one of our strongest allies in terms of pushing sales, and that's not going to change. That's not going to change by the the war in UAE or any of that. But their importance just comes to the fore right now. But I think we are in a good space in terms of our communication and our balance with them. So,
Okay. As an association, what are your 3 key demands from state of Maharashtra, the government of Maharashtra?
I could go on with a laundry list, but
just 3.
So, so we've come out with a white paper. We've come out with a research paper which says that Bombay, the amount of premiums that a developer pays in Bombay is about 30 to 40% of the project cost. And it is about, in certain times, 100 times that in Bangalore or say in Delhi or say in Calcutta. So, earlier we used to make this demand that you rationalize the premiums and you reduce them. And if you see that during COVID, they had made premiums 50%. And, you told me right now there's a lot more sales, there's a lot more, supply. That is all a function of that. So much activity got triggered because of 50% premiums. So ideally, we would want them to rationalize the premiums and bring it at 50%. That would, but we also have to understand that Maharashtra as a government has a lot of pain points in terms of where they need money. So for example, the coastal road, that was constructed with the fungible premiums that we collected. So, we are seeing that our premiums are being put to good use. So, although our demand may be to rationalize it and bring our premiums at 50%, if that is not happening, for example, if the government says, no, we need to put money here, here and here, and we cannot help you over there, they need to rationalize the stage of payment. So one key demand that we've been asking them is that all the premiums should be in the format of 10-10-80. So 10% at the outset, 10% when you get sale CC, and 80% when you get sale OC. So today what is happening is all these premiums are front loaded. So before my project is becoming marketable or before I get my RERA certificate, I have to make a lot of payments. So all that money is going out from my pocket, which is making projects unviable.
So it's high risk for the developers, probably very low risk for the government.
That's
So how is government responding to this?
So, I mean, they are amenable to it. Like you said, everything has a shock value. So, when you first put it up, they say, nahi, 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 this looks drastic. But, whenever we've had discussions about 10, 10, 80, they seem to understand where we are coming from. So, as long as they understand where we are coming from, I think we can find a middle ground. Like, we may say 10, 10, 80. They may say, no, no, we can give this. So, it's important to come at a middle ground somewhere. So, I think that understanding is there. That is the first, the premiums. Secondly, I think there should be a separate slab in stamp duty for affordable housing. So today, stamp duty is 6%. If you want to promote affordable housing, you could probably do affordable housing at 1% stamp duty. They had made stamp duty 1% and then 3% during that COVID phase. Okay. And they saw astronomical growth in revenue for them. So, they like per transaction, they may have received less revenue, but because of that, the overall revenue was a lot more. So, that is something that they should look at.
Is government receptive to this?
I mean, we've not made this demand, to be honest. Okay. I mean, we've not made this demand. So, I mean, I don't know.
Have they observed it that they actually generated more revenue?
Of course, they are aware. The numbers don't lie. And they are privy to all the numbers. So
just that because there is no demand, why to do it?
Yeah.
Okay. Lastly, I just want to understand how optimistic are you about the India growth story and Mumbai growth story from real estate perspective, and your personally at Neelyog, what are the key projects that you are optimistic about?
So, like I said, India story, I'm gung-ho about it. Like, you give it 10 years, you give it 20 years. We are at a upward trajectory. Our median age of the population of India is the best in the world. And, I mean, you see the eye of the tiger, you see the fire in the, the young population, and we are going to go places. So as far as the India story is concerned, I do not see anyone stopping us. Like, you may face blips. Like I again said, like, the UAE crisis or the Middle East crisis, these are all blips. But overall, I think there's only one way we are going, and that is up. In terms of Bombay, I think Bombay needs to redefine itself. Like earlier, Bombay was the financial capital of India. And, now you see that all these people who were into stock markets earlier, the second generation, they're all moving to Dubai, they're all moving to Goa because they know that they don't need to go to BSc every day. That physical connectivity is not required. So if we don't reinvent ourselves, the tier 2 cities are going to eat us up alive because they are coming up in a more structured manner. And, I'm not talking about the next 5 years. I'm talking about the next 30 years. I'm talking long term. So in the next 10 years, I don't see anything changing. But if push comes to shove and Bombay does not reinvent itself, over a period of 30 years, 40 years, you're going to see a shift.
Yeah, you're right. Even on the western side, you have new port projects also coming up. So there will be competition for the port city of Mumbai as well.
So as CREDAI-MCHI, we were called to a presentation by MMRDA. What we saw was completely boggled our mind. I mean, the kind of infrastructure that they have planned, if even 60% of it fructifies in the next 10 years, you are going to see all these oases and pockets of development all over Bombay. Like, like Bombay to Alibag. So right now, you're taking so long. There's going to be a flyover there. Like, Bombay to, I don't know, just you name a place. And, the connectivity will be so good. Like, our Honorable CM Devendra Fadnavis ji also keeps talking about his vision for Mumbai 4.0.
Yes.
So he definitely sees a need to reinvent Bombay. So, he's planned Bombay as a 4-tier city, wherein, Bombay is there, Thane is there. And, then there's going to be an innovation city. And there's going to be an edu city. And, he's already making efforts. He's gone to Davos and he's signed a few agreements with all these universities, and they're going to be brought over here. And, it's his vision that from anywhere in Bombay to anywhere in Bombay, you should be able to reach in 1 hour. So I mean, I have tremendous faith in the present dispensation. I have a tremendous faith in our honorable CM. So if these plans materialize, we are second generation, like my kids will see a completely different Bombay than what I have seen. Like, you mentioned Bombay, the BPT land.
Yes.
There's so much land and so much can be done. And if you see from now on, whatever we are doing is all top notch. Tell me, Nagesh, when you're traveling from Worli to South Bombay today on the coastal road, you are not looking at it and you're not doing wow. And you're not feeling like you're in a Dubai or you're not in a Singapore. So tell me we are not doing that. And I'll tell you are wrong. So the next 10 years is where the growth story of Bombay is going to be written. And we are privileged that we are going to be a part of it.
So interestingly, what you are suggesting is what we have seen the development so far, infrastructure development, that probably just the tip
Of
We
the
will
iceberg.
have much more.
Yeah. So
how optimistic are you, from the micro markets that you are focusing on, and what will be your 3 key projects? If you can
So for
talk
me,
about.
a lot of my work is in Ghatkopar right now, and it is by choice. It's by design. If you see, Ghatkopar is becoming a central hub in terms of the entire, dispensation of Mumbai, where you have you have the Eastern Freeway, you have the connectivity between the East and the West, and you have the metros.
Yes.
So I think Ghatkopar as a market is extremely robust. Only challenge I feel in Ghatkopar is the height restriction, which is because of civil aviation. So that is a challenge which we need to circumvent. And again, I tell myself, Rushi, you cannot be greedy. You cannot want to make maximization of FSI as your only goal. So, we have to ensure that, we leave some FSI on the table, but we make better products, not get consumed by, having a banner that we've consumed maximum FSI. So I think, that is what I keep telling myself, that, what is it that the customer would want? If you start thinking that way, I think your product will eventually be the winner.
Interestingly, you have constructed not just residences, you have gone into the drama theaters,
Yeah.
you have gone into temple construction.
Yeah.
Are these as in one-off projects that happened, or you also look at these as the opportunity areas going forward?
So when we made a commercial building in Ghatkopar in one of our SRA projects, I mean, that time the multiplex industry was booming.
Okay.
And, we were planning commercial and we were planning retail. So, multiplex was something which attracted retail and which attracted offices. So that was a decision of that point in time. And, always moving with the times, you decide, like a lot of developers are proposing Jain mandirs within their layouts, because Ghatkopar is a community where a lot of affluent Jain people reside and they prefer to have a temple within their own vicinity. So these are all decisions based on what the customer wants from us, what the market expects from us. And in terms of pure sales, you forget this, but we do a lot of slum rehabilitation. So there are already a lot of structures and you have to construct. So, we've made so many mandirs, we've made masjids. So
you mean to say the existing structures you further redevelop?
Yeah. We have to move them in a different place, because there you may have planned something else.
Okay.
So you are moving a temple and you're making it somewhere else. So, all these.
So these also become attraction points for the residents who would come and
So for example, I'll give you an example. In Ghatkopar, there was a Jain trust who were looking for land. And they were going to transact for that piece of land with someone else, and they were going to give a handsome sum of money to that gentleman. And suddenly someone told me, and I was like, hello, hold on. Why is someone giving money? Because that property does not belong to that person. So, there was an entire scam of sorts happening. And, they came to me and I was like, boss, this land belongs to me. You want it, you can have it for free. And in that one meeting, and listen, I can't take credit for it. It was my dad. I was probably not even in the business by then. So my dad said, okay, you want it for a Jain mandir, you can have it for free. And today there's a Jain mandir which is there, which is, thousands of devotees are coming. And that had no commercial angle to it. It was just faith. And that said, we're not even Jains. But someone of some faith wanted it so badly, we said, theek hai.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So it was not a commercial project.
No,
mandir that you.
No, it's not commercial at all.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
Okay. On commercial basis, will you be looking at, because today we are talking about temple-led development also is becoming a key thing. So do you see that as an opportunity area? Not considered that much.
So of course it is. Like in one of my other projects that I'm doing, there's a 120-year-old Lakshmi Narayan temple in the middle of the project.
Okay.
And it was a trust-led development. So the trustees said that, one condition that we'll have is that you won't be able to move that temple. And I was like, one condition that I want to make is I don't even want to move this temple.
Oh.
Because, I mean, a heritage temple of 120 years cannot be made again. You may make a golden temple, you may make anything, but you can't make a 120-year-old temple. So, I have conceptualized our entire project around the temple. I have kept a huge opening where from the road you can see the temple. I mean, I've called it, in architecture, I've called it a dwar to the temple. So, the entire project is around the temple.
Oh, interesting.
So, I mean, yeah, this works.
Okay. Thanks for coming for this podcast, Rushi. And different ideas also emerged from this.
Yeah.
Especially on the rentals and the temple-led architecture as well. So thanks a lot, and we will be meeting again, talking again.
Thank you, Nagesh, for having me. It was my pleasure. Thank you.